everybody. Happy Sunday. Thanks for giving me a couple weeks off. It was really nice. I got a lot of little things done that I've been trying to do. I've been working on, I needed to do things at my house, and I moved. You saw my furniture. I got some furniture up here, and I've been working on just that kind of stuff. Like yesterday, I spent the day at my house doing fix-ups. I needed to do fix-ups. So, hello. Well, people are coming in. Hello, everybody. Yeah, I just needed a little bit of regrouping time because I had some of those things that needed to be done, and it's so hard unless I have a whole day, to do those kind of things. So I got everything done. Whoever said, can you see my name when I type to you? No, I cannot. So let's see. That is Denise Walker. No, I can't, Denise. Sorry. You need to click that link on the video. There, if you go out of the video and then come back in again, you can click that link. How is everybody tonight? We got all kinds of people here tonight. Awesome. So I've also been working on some other stuff, and I'm working on I got the May little bench buddies done. Oh, let me go grab them. I laid them over here instead. It's like So we'll start up the bench buddies again in May. So here's the little bench buddies. So this is the just hanging with my buds. It's so cute. And this is the 8x8 one. And then this is the little smaller one. Delight in the little things. So I really like these were fun. So I did these last week. And then I've been working on something for my bedroom. I'm trying to get some wall hangings done for my bedroom. So I've been working on those. So I've been working on stuff. So besides moving furniture. Aren't the pillows cute? I just think they're adorable. And these are mostly sewn. There's a little bit of applique in both of them, but not a ton. So these were a little bit, and you can't really see it on the camera very well, but Delight and With My Buds is actually the same color as the fabric here. That kind of purpley color. I don't know why the thread looks black, but it's not. It's that purple color. So how is everybody tonight? Are you ready for a little bunny rabbit pillow here? This pillow, I did 6 of these, and these are available on my website, and on my it's sew-along-with-jan.square.site. So I've got 6 of these. So this was the Easter one, and I did this a couple of years ago, but I never taught it. I didn't realize it until I was putting all the videos up on YouTube that there was no video for this one. So I thought, well, we just have to do it. I thought I had taught it, but so we're gonna go ahead and oh, somebody asked about the grass and the rectangle one. No, it's Rick Rack. This one's Rick Rack. So this one you don't have to make prairie points, just Rick Rack this time. Yes, it's green Rick Rack. So anyway, so we're gonna do this tonight, and we're gonna spend a couple of weeks on it so that we can have a nice binding video and how to put it together next week. So this is done in panels. So I do my pillows a little differently. I do them in panels, and these are all quilted. I mean, they're all pieced and embroidered and quilted in the hoop. So then you just sew the panels together to make the pillow. So it's all quilted beforehand, so you don't have to try to, do all the quilting and everything after the fact. So this one was one of my favorite ones. I like that little saying, hippity hoppity, happy Easter day. So that's what I actually call it. And I call them settee pillows because they're smaller. So these are 12 by 22, and Hobby Lobby has a pillow form this size. So if you go to Hobby Lobby, they have this 12 by 22 pillow form, and it fits really well, and it's very soft, so it goes in real easy and everything. One of the gals that had just posted one said she had trouble getting it in her pillow form in. So I don't know if you got the one at Hobby Lobby. I never have any trouble. They're very soft. So they're real soft ones. I like their pillow forms. So anyway, I have 5 other ones. There's a St. Patrick's Day, Valentine's Day, Halloween, Christmas, and then there's a patriotic one. And then I plan to do 4 more of these. I'd like to do winter, spring, summer, and fall. So there's 4 more general ones. So that's the next thing on the list. So I'm going to work on some more of these. But these are fun. These go in an 8 by 12 hoop. That little duck, I know, isn't that little ducky cute? I can't take complete credit for that because the little duck is actually in the software. It's in the PEP software. It was one of the built-in designs. I just love that little duck, and I just had to use it for something. So this is what I used it for. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, let's start with the fabric. So let me turn my camera around here. Talk a little bit about fabric and cutting. And we're just going to sew out one panel because the panels are actually basically in the same order. But I'll talk a little bit. The only thing that's different, like the center panel is a slightly different. You just put a border on the top and the bottom, not on the sides. And then it's a little bit, the fabrics are just slightly different size in the center. The biggest hoop I have is 6 by 8, so I can't make it. No, it needs to be 8 by 12. It fits the full 8 by 12. I'm not sure who said that. 6 by 8, that's really small. Do you only have a machine that has what machine do you have, Teresa? Which machine do you have? Okay, yeah, Teresa, can you tell me which machine you have? So let me turn my camera around here. We'll talk about the fabrics first. I don't very often do stuff that's bigger like this, but the reason I did is because it fit in I found this really nice pillow form, and I really like the size of it. Okay, let me get my camera turned around here and my microphone. Okay. I just really like the size of the pillow form, and that's why I chose this one. And it fits it fits really nicely in an 8 by 12 hoop. So basically each of the panels is almost a full length and width of an 8 by 12, and then it's perfectly in thirds. So that's why I chose that hoop, because then it's just one hooping per panel. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about the fabric. Did Teresa tell me what machine she had? Oh, you have a 1700E. You actually do have a 6 by 10. Your biggest hoop is 6 by 10, not 6 by 8. So no, you can't. I never did any smaller ones because I couldn't buy a pillow form then that was easy to buy. So let me turn my banner off here real quick before we start. Okay. Let me get back to my comments. There we go. So no, I'm sorry, not for this one, Teresa. I don't do, this is really the only pillows I did in a bigger hoop. I usually stay in a 6 by 10 for almost everything, but this particular one is bigger just because I have bigger machines, and it just fit the way it fit in thirds. So that's why it ended up being an 8 by 12. So I wanted it to be smaller, but it just wouldn't, I couldn't get it long enough or wide enough. And then I had to have another panel in there. So it just wasn't going to work. So anyway, we did it this way. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about the instructions. The instructions are pretty basic. I give you some cutting instructions here. What you need is up here, and how much fabric you need. 8 by 12 hoop, we're going to use a no-show mesh stabilizer in the hoop. And the 12 by 22 pillow form. And I've never found those anywhere except Hobby Lobby. And somebody told me they didn't think they had them anymore, but they do, because I just bought the one that I put in this pillow maybe just a month ago. So they do have them, and they're 12 by 22. Okay. And let's see. Can I tell you my website again? My website is sew-along dash with dash Jan dot square dot site. And I'll type it in the comments too, so you can read it. It's just the name of the group with the dashes in there, dot square dot site. So okay, so the first thing you need to do, obviously, is do a little cutting. There's 3 pieces of batting that are 9 by 13. So I have my batting. Now I'm using Hobbs 80/20. I have lots of scraps, so I use lots of scraps of Hobbs. The center fabric, there's 2 center fabric sizes. Each one of these panels, there's 2 panels. Let's see, I already sewed out a couple of my panels so you can see. Okay, so the center panel, this is the right hand panel, and then the last, thank you Shannon for typing that out. This panel is the right hand panel. So the left panel that we're going to do tonight is actually, this is the mirror image of it. Okay. So these 2 pieces of fabric are the same size. There's one here and one on the left. So those are the ones that are the 2 pieces you cut, 2 center fabric pieces that are 6.5 by 8.5. And then there's one that's 8.5 by 8.5. So the center one, as you can see, is a little bit more on the square side. Okay, so this is the center panel. All right. And then you need the border fabrics. So there's several pieces of border fabric on here. The outside panels need these little shorter ones. So these are like, I think these are the 6.5 by 3.5 by 6.5. So you need 4 of those because there's 2 outside panels. Okay. And then the center panel is 8.5 inches long. So you make them 3.5 by 8.5. All right. So there's only 2 of those. So the center panel is just slightly different because there's no edging on the outside. Okay. So it's just on the top and the bottom. So those are longer. Okay. And you need the long panels. The long ones are, I think they're 14.5. You look, they're 14. So 3.5 by 14. So these are the ones that go on the left and right side. Okay. So you'll see what we're going to do here as soon as we get going here. So, and then, let's see, the little pieces are the bunny ears. So there's some glitter vinyl on this one. So I used pink glitter vinyl for my bunny ears. And we're going to remove that carrier sheet off the top. So you need 2 pieces of this. And these are what, 2 by 2.5. And then the flower up here, I don't have that piece. I used it already. It was 2 by 2. I made a flower here. Yeah, isn't that pretty? You know what? I got that a couple of years ago when I did this originally. I had just enough to make 2 pillows. That's all I had left. So I don't know that you can get it anymore, but it is really pretty. So then you need this little piece of glitter here. So that's like 2 by 2 for the flower. And then you need, I used fleece for my bunnies. You can do, I had some people that used minky. You can just use flannel. You can use fabric, whatever you want. But I used fleece, like blanket fleece on mine. So I've got a couple pieces that are this size, and they're like 4 by 8, I think. Yeah, 4 by 8. And then you need there's a couple little eggs that are applique, that like this little green egg here. So I needed a couple pieces that are like 2 by 2. So I just had a couple little pieces of egg fabric. And you need 2 pieces for the back. So let's talk about the backs here. So you need to cut, some back and some binding. So the backs, here's the backs here, this pink, and those are 12 by 14. Okay, so we'll talk about these next week. We'll do the assembly next week. Give you a chance to get your panels done. And then you need 2 pieces, the width of the fabric, that are 2 1/4. So this is the binding. So this is going to go along the outside edge. Okay, let me show you my binding on the other one here. Get those out of the way. I won't need those tonight. So here's the binding. So we'll do this, and I do this on the sewing machine. So I'll do another binding video so you can see me bind it. Okay, and then this is the back. And then this is a envelope backing. Okay. So that is the fabrics you need. So yeah, I had just enough of this fabric left to make 2. I have like enough to make like one little piece. If I make a boo-boo, I have a little bit left. So hopefully I won't boo-boo too badly, so I don't have to try to find some fabric. Okay, so what I have done here, we're just going to go ahead and get started. So the cutting, like I said, I cut my kits a couple at a time. So I cut 2 of them, and I did sew out the other 2 panels. So we'll talk about the other panel. This is the only one that's really different. This one's the exact mirror image of the other one. So when we do the first one tonight, this one's done the same way, just done the other way. Okay, so there's 3 designs, one with the border on the left and one with the border on the right, and then the center panel. Okay, so there's only 3 designs. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our 8x12 hoop, and we're going to put the no-show mesh in the hoop. So I'm just going to use one piece of no-show mesh in my hoop because we're going to leave it on the back. So you can see it's on the back, and this is just going to be on the inside of the pillow. So that's just the back of the pillow. Okay, so that's what we're going to have in there. We'll lay these up here. And I'm going to put white thread in the, I put white thread in the, because I've got a light colored background. So depending on what you're using, I'm just going to piece most of mine with white. Okay, so I've got white in my needle, embroidery thread, and then I've got white bobbin thread in. Okay. All right. So the first step, and I have loaded my design, so I'll bring this over so you can see. So here's the one with the border on the outside on the left. Your pieces, your center pieces look way small compared to yours. Oh, so this is my center, the left hand side. So we're going to do the left panel first, and I already did the center and the right panel. Okay, so we'll do that tonight, and the same method goes for the whole thing. So it's very easy once you get going. All right, so the first thing is the batting placement line. So we're going to sew out the batting placement line. May have to move my camera a little bit so it doesn't bonk into the hoop here. We're going to sew that out. That's step number 1. These are really fun and easy to do. I had a group of friends that helped me test sew all of these. When I was doing them, it was so nice because I cut them some kits and then they would test sew them for me to see if they all worked okay. Sometimes I'm so close to the design, when I make it myself, I don't really notice if something's not quite right. So it's nice to have people that test sew for me. All right, so there's our placement line. Now I tried in the instructions to explain what the item was. Like step number 1 is the batting placement line. Then it says place the batting over the placement line. Okay. Thanks, Jackie. All right, so we're going to lay this over the placement line, make sure it covers, and it's not going to be overly large. I tried to keep my fabrics, not terribly large, so you're not wasting a lot. Okay. All right, so there's my fabric or my batting, and then I'm going to sew out number 2, which is the tack down line for the batting. And this is going to go around twice to tack this down. And with the batting, just so you know, with this no-show mesh, you may have to kind of keep it smooth because every now and then it wants to kind of try to bunch on you. Because I think the stabilizer is a little bit on the, the shiny side, so it kind of scoots a little bit. So just kind of watch your batting that it doesn't bunch up on you. Where it likes to bunch is this little top corner up here. So mine seems to be doing pretty good. So there we go. So it's going to go around that twice, so you have a little better stitching to trim to. I got to figure out a way to keep my camera from bouncing. So this is step number 2. Now I also tried in the instructions for the instruction number and the machine number to be the same. That's something I find important because I get mixed up sometimes when the machine numbers and the instruction numbers are different. So I tried to make mine the same. So now we're going to trim the batting close to the stitches. Okay, so we're going to trim this batting away. So this will not be in our seam allowance. We don't want all that bulk in the seam allowance. So we're going to trim the batting. Oops. This is one of my favorite ones. I really, really like, the other one I really, really like is the Halloween pillow. It's my, the one with the, I was watching Harry Potter when I did it. And I just had to do that song. Okay. So we're going to trim all the way around. Oops, second, now I'm going to drop everything on the floor. All right, so I got my batting trims. I got to find my scissors down here. Okay. Then step number 3 says it's the center fabric placement line. So we are going to stitch out the center fabric placement line, which is going to be the line for this kind of my background fabric, which is my, it's kind of a light pink with a little tiny polka dot on it. Now, if you're careful placing your fabric, you probably will not need to trim. I made the sizes about the right size, so you don't you shouldn't have to do much trimming. I do mention trimming, but we'll talk about that when we get to the step number 4 here. But I tried to make these pretty close to size, so you don't need to trim hardly at all. In fact, I normally don't even trim. So you want to place the center fabric over the placement line, but what I want to do is I need a seam allowance over here. So I'm going to place this so that there's about 1/2 inch outside here. And then just a little bit over the upper and lower line. And see, it's going to be about 1/4 inch over it. So you shouldn't even have to trim if you kind of scoot it out so that you've got about 1/2 inch out here. Okay. So that's how I usually do these. And this one, I got to make sure I got it right side up. Yep. That's pretty close. So step number 4 is going to tack this down. And you should, if you're careful the way you put it on, you shouldn't even have to trim. So I like to have about 1/4 inch seam all the way around, except this side, I want 1/2 inch. Okay. Because I need to sew that together. That's one of the places I need to sew together. So it looks pretty good. You know, if you got a little off, you can always trim a little bit, but I think it's okay. This is step number 4. And then I say trim the fabric 1/4 inch from the stitching on the inside of the block. So in other words, in here, about 1/4 inch. You need about 1/4 inch. Outside, you want to leave it at 1/2 inch. That's why I scooted it out to the side. So you shouldn't even have to trim. Very little trimming will be necessary as the fabric is pretty close to size. Okay. All right. So there is our fabric. Should we have put SF101 on the back of this fabric? No, I did not use SF101. Normally, when I use batting on the back of stuff, I do not use shape flex. And you don't need to. None of these have shape flex on them. So I normally don't. Not when I'm using batting. So yeah, so these don't have any shape flex. And all I did, I had one piece of no-show mesh and one piece of batting. So it's fine. And it doesn't look wrinkly. I mean, it looks quilted, but not wrinkly. So no, you don't need to. All right, so step number 5 is going to be that we're going to do the quilting next. Make sure I don't miss anything. And I'm just leaving my white in for all of this. Are you using Kimberbell vinyl? Actually, I very rarely use Kimberbell vinyl, Cindy. I have a huge box of glitter HTV or heat transfer vinyl, and that's what it is. So this probably came from, you can use Kimberbell vinyl, of course, but I think this came from probably the place I buy vinyl from. It's called Specialty Graphics. So this is Scissor glitter vinyl. That's what it is. So it's going to do a stipple. Because I learned to do most of my quilting in the hoop like this because I digitized a lot of stuff because I'm not a very good stippler like manually. So I like the machine to do it. I have done a few things that I've had to do some free motion, very little, and it's turned out okay. I mean, it's not perfect by any means because I'm not very good at it, but every now and then I get stuck that I just can't figure out any other way to do it. So then I have to manually do it. But these were fun. This was really a fun project, and all of the pillows are different. You know, they have different things on them and different techniques. So yeah, if you want to put shape flex on, you can, but I just usually don't when I'm using batting because the batting acts as a stabilizer. And if I put the shape flex on it, I don't think the stipple is as deep. You know, I don't think the stippling shows quite as much. I also like this Hobbs batting because it's a little loftier and it makes the stipple look a little deeper. You know, you can see it a little bit more. Even though I used matchy thread, I still there's a lot of nice texture there. So this is the quilting. Let's see, it's coming up. Oh, now we're gonna piece. So we're gonna piece this together in the next steps. Oh, I wonder where I'll have to look and see how fast my machine's actually set up. I had it serviced this week. It's much quieter, I noticed. And but I'm not sure if Ron turned it down or not. Sometimes he turns it down when he's servicing them. So yep, getting that done. I did this pillow is going to be done on 3 separate machines because I actually did one of the panels at the store on the PR, the old PR that's there. One of the panels at the store on my little machine that's there, and the other one's going to be on my luminaire. So yeah, mine. I don't normally leave mine at the highest, but I was going to see what mine's at. I'll see when it stops here. It's picking up all the little divots that it didn't get. These are funny how they sew. Sometimes the stippling sews funny, but gets the job done. Okay, so I was going to just look and see where mine's at. I forgot to look before I started. Let's see here what it says. It's still at 800. So that's I usually sew at about 800. Okay, so there's our stippling. So the next step is going to be we're going to start piecing the rest of the top together. So before step number 6, it says that this is a top border sewing line up here. But it says before sewing, place the top border fabric right sides together with the center fabric raw edges even. Okay, so we're just gonna, this is flip and fold. So we're gonna lay this piece, one of these pieces like this, along that top line and just line it up on the edges with the raw edges even, and they're right sides together, and then stitch out number 7, and that will piece that together for you. I'm gonna find the other one here. Hopefully I haven't lost anything. Yeah, my machine's a lot quieter. My machine gets used a lot, so it needs to be lubricated. So okay, so then we're gonna flip this back like this. Yeah, isn't this cute fabric? I got it at Joann's, but it's been a couple of years ago, so I don't know if they still have it or not. It was a couple of Easters ago. Okay, so then I'm going to flip this back, and I'm just going to take my fingernail and just make a nice crease there. Okay, so that it's nicely folded back and has a nice crease. Okay, then the next step number 7, is going to be the tack down for this, just to hold it in place. So it's going to tack it down around the outside edge. like that. And you can tape it down if you want. I usually just hold it. And then step number 8, I'm going to go to the bottom. This one's going to be the same thing. So before you sew out step number 8, we're going to place the other piece, that the border fabric, right sides together, raw edges even, along the bottom there. And then step number 8 is going to be the stitching line. Oops, a second, I don't want to lose my little egg fabric here. And now we're going to do some more. We're not going to piece the whole thing yet. We have to do some other stuff before we do the left hand side. Okay, so this is going to be step number 9. So before number 9, we're going to flip this back, okay? Okay, so, and it says to trim along here, but these are pretty close to the 1/4 inch, so I didn't trim. I did say to, trim. So if you get them really off, or if they were really long, you could trim a little bit, but you don't need to, I don't think, mostly. I kind of made the sizes about the right size. All right, so then it's going to do the tack down line. And it also at the top, if your fabric was really long for some reason, you could trim it off, but that's close enough to a 1/4 inch. I'm not going to trim. Okay, so there's the tack down line. That was number 9. Okay, so now we're going to do some applique. And my fabric is kind of very pale pink with a lot of white stippling in it. So I had a really hard time seeing where I needed to put my bunny fabric, because on the first one I almost missed. So I'm going to actually switch to this bright pink just so I can see where the bunny needs to go, because I had a hard time. I'm just going to switch over and do like a pink here so I can see where the bunny goes. I almost missed it on the first panel. And I thought, whoop, better switch to a different color. This will all be covered up with the white fabric, so you won't see it. So I'm going to put a hot pink in just to help me see where the bunny. So this is going to be the bunny applique. So this is the placement line, number 10, for the bunny applique. But I did it in white originally, and it was so matchy to everything else that was going on here. I couldn't see it. So I thought, well, we probably better do something different with that. So I'm going to use the fleece for this. And it does its little paw too. All right, so there's the little paw. Now I am going to switch back though to the white, because I need to tack this down. So I am going to switch back to my white so that I don't have pink under my white stitches here. So we'll switch back to the white for the rest of the bunny here. Yeah, my machine's so much quieter. Wow. It's always amazing when I get it back from servicing. Okay, so here's my white fleece. And then make sure, did you use a topping before you sew the satin stitches? No, I didn't actually. No, I didn't use a topping. So I'm going to go ahead and just slip this up here. Make sure you get the whole thing covered. Okay, and I didn't do overly a lot of fabric, but enough. So then number 11 is going to be the tack down stitch. So I am going to do that in the white. And then we'll trim our fabric close to the stitches. Now this you kind of have to hold a little bit because it wants to scoot just a little. See, I just barely made it on that one. Yeah, the first one I did, I just barely had enough. No, Lisa, I didn't use any topping. You really could because it's fleece, but I don't like to put topping on. I don't like to put topping if it's going to be under, like maybe an applique piece, because then it crinkles. So I didn't. Okay, so there's the bunny part. Then it's going to come down and do the little paw. No, this is blanket fleece. This is like blanket fleece. And you could do felt too. I mean, felt would be fine. You could do anything you wanted for your bunny. I had a couple of the gals that did them in minky. They wanted longer hair. And those are really cute. Okay, so now we're going to do a, we're going to trim close the stitches. Now the trick with this though, it's a little bit hard to trim because you kind of have to pull it up and it's a little stretchy, you know. So you kind of have to pull it up so that you can get close to the stitches. I may have to take this out. I don't know if you can see very well. So I'm kind of pulling up on it a little bit, and you will see just a little bit of that pink, but it'll be okay because it'll be covered up with a heavy satin stitch. So, but you may not have to do that if your fabric is a lot less matchy than mine was. So the white, I just couldn't see where I was going. And you are going to trim the bunny too. You know, trim the bunny on the outside. Trim all the way around the outside edge, close. So I'm going to work on the ears here. See I'm having a little trouble with my ears tonight. Pull this up a little bit. If you just kind of pull up on the fleece, then it'll kind of spring back. So it's a little stretchy. So this little piece here is being contrary though. There we go. That looks better. It's hard to trim in the machine so you can see. I usually take this over and trim it on my table so that it's easier to trim. So I'm just kind of doing the best I can here. All right, so we're going to go around this ear. Let's see if I got close enough on this. I think I did. Go around the ear here. Go down in between. Make sure, because you have to get in between the little ears. I'm not a big Minky fan, so the Minky was really cute, but it gets so messy, so I didn't use Minky. I had a couple gals that did, and they were really cute with the longer hair. But this fleece had pretty long fur on it, so okay. All right, so I get around my at my little paw. Okay. So then I'm going to put this back in, and step number 12 is going to be the satin stitches that are going to go around the bunny. So we'll do the bunny here. Oops, looks like I unthreaded my needle though. Try that again. There we go. Let me back up here so it catches everything. All right. So now we're going to do the satin stitches on the bunny. I've got my white in for that. Now it's not going to satin stitch along this edge here because that's going to be in the seam. So it's just going to do a nice satin stitch. And then we'll start working on the ears. Is everybody doing okay? Anybody have any questions? I think I answered your question, didn't I, Sunday? It's actually, this is fleece, but did you mean is this regular fleece or felt? Wasn't sure what you meant. This is actually blanket fleece. Make sure I don't lose all my pieces here. So while this is stitching, I'll show you this one. Okay, so this panel is the exact. Yeah, the flannel would be cute too, and I even had people make pink bunnies and blue bunnies and purple bunnies and all kinds of stuff. So this one here is the same. It's the same exact design. It's just a mirror image of each other. So this is what we're doing. We're doing the satin stitches on the little bunny here. So you can see it. They makes a nice satin stitch around there. Okay, but the little face is going to be sewn in the seam. Okay. So this is going to be because when I made this, I only had to digitize 2 panels because the other one was the mirror image, so it was kind of nice. So that's what we're doing, and then the center one's just a little bit different. Yeah, I think you could use flannel, you could use fleece, you could just use cotton. I had people use prints. I had people use plains. I had people use pinks, blues, greens, yellows. So it just depends on your fabric, what color you want to use. I like white bunnies, so I made a white bunny. So it's going around the ear. Yeah, I had to go buy fleece because I didn't have any. I had to go run into Hobby Lobby. That's when I got the pillow. I had to buy like a quarter of a yard of fleece because I didn't have any fleece to do this. I don't buy that kind of fabric very often, so I had to go buy some fleece. Yep, so it just makes it have a little texture to it. I like bunnies. Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, you're using up some older fabric to make it more vintage looking. See, you want to, instead of saying make it look older, you want to make it look vintage. That's the new. That's what you. It sounds so much more elegant, don't you think? Vintage. Got some fuzz in here, so it's going around there. We're going to do the ears next. So the next thing, the next part will be the glitter vinyl. So while this is sewing, we'll work with the glitter vinyl. Make sure you take the carrier sheet, that clear carrier sheet, off of your glitter vinyl, if you can get it. I'm going to get that ready. There we go. I'm going to take this off. Okay, and so you just want to use this. This is going to be your applique piece, and you just want the pretty glitter showing. So I threw away my plastic carrier sheet. I had fun doing this one. The other one I really enjoyed making was the Christmas one with the Santas flying across the moon. Had a really hard time with that. It was it took me a while to get that one figured out, how to get the moon and everything to line up. So that one was a hard one. Because when you sew with the panels together, the moon all has to line up. This one's a little bit more forgiving, but then it's going to go around the little bunny foot. I have to hang on to my camera now. I got a new arm for the camera, and it's not as strong as the other one, and my machine bounces it. So I don't want you to get seasick watching it. Now we're doing the foot. It's the satin stitches take the longest. This is about the longest. There's a little bit of satin stitching on the eggs and stuff, but this panel does take about a half an hour to sew out. The middle one will take longer, so when you're working on your middle one. Oh yes, Cindy, I did. We went for ice cream and a ride through the park. And then tomorrow we're going to, I have to take something back to Menards that I got for my house. I did some fix-ups on my house yesterday with some friends that were so good to go help me. And we put up a new range vent, like a hood vent above my stove, because my old microwave quit working. So I put up just a hood, and then I got a microwave for the counter. And then we put up some shutters. But one of the shutters was broken, actually, right in the box. So I have to take it back. And then we also put up a Ring doorbell. So does anybody have a Ring doorbell? That thing's pretty awesome. Makes me feel more connected to my house. I can actually see my living room, and I can see my front yard anytime I want. So, okay. So there is our, oh, the hood actually works pretty good. Who said that? Jan? It was pretty easy. We got it up. I mean, Orland's really handy, and I can help. So, yep, I got shutters. I got my shutter. We had a derecho here a couple summers ago. For those of you who are away from here, what a derecho. It's sort of like a hurricane inland. So I lost some shutters off my house and I hadn't been able to get them all up. You know, the ring is pretty cool though, because you know I'm not home all the time, and it's been so nice because somebody walked up to my door last night and it alerted me and told me there was somebody on my doorstep, and it was my neighbor who was just walking his dog. But then I knew, you know, it's pretty cool. All right, so the next step is going to be the placement line. A placement line for the little earpieces, which is going to be this glitter vinyl. So I'm going to switch over to my hot pink here to do that. We're going to do the placement line first, and that's step number 13. We'll get this is called, Wild Cherry. I'm using the Brother threads, so this is called Wild Cherry. Well, you know, the ring, the doorbell is really easy to put up. There's not much to it. If you can use a drill, you do have to drill, you know, put a couple screws in, but it really wasn't hard. I'll do the other one myself, but I'm going to order a second one so I have one on both doors. So I just have some cameras down there. But it's been nice because it alerts you, you know, when people are around your house. So it's been kind of fun. Okay, so there's my placement line for my ears. Now it does bury down into the fleece a little bit, and that's okay. Okay, so you can see it right here, and I'm going to lay this. Now this is not overly large, just so you know, but it's big enough to lay over your ear placement lines. And I am going to hold this because it wants to scoot just a little bit. And you could tape it if you wanted to. I usually just hold them. And I'm going to use my same, whoops, didn't get my flipper down. I'm going to use the same hot Wild Cherry. You don't need electricity. They're battery operated. The doorbells, my doorbell's battery operated. I don't have any electricity either. I've never had a doorbell at my house. So it's got a battery pack in it. It lasts for about 3 weeks, they say. So you just have to charge it. Pretty awesome. And then the camera, I bought a camera with it too, and the camera's inside the house. So, all right, so there's my tack down lines for my glitter. Didn't want to cut after that glitter. Okay. So then we're going to go ahead and we're going to trim close to the stitches, and then we're going to press this down with the iron. So I'm just going to trim close to the stitches here on my glitter. Kind of hold it up a little bit. It helps to get it. And I love these Ginger. These are those little double curved 6-inch double curved scissors. They do really well getting very close. They have a very sharp tip on them. And we have these up on the shieldsewingcenter.com. So if you don't have a pair of these are the most awesome scissors because they're very sharp on the ends. They are a little delicate, so don't be dropping them constantly like I do, because I have to replace mine because I'm always dropping them. They're just a little bit delicate, and they like to bend if you drop them too many times, like me. But I'm using them so much. Okay, so we're going to get this. Oops. Go around the corner here, so I'm getting close to stitches. So after I get it trimmed, make sure you clean off any other, you don't want any glitter, you know, hanging out there, because it's going to adhere itself. I think that's okay. And then I'm going to take this over, and I'll just tip my camera up. I've got my little wool ironing mat next to me, and my little small iron. I love this little mini iron. This is something else that's on the website. If you don't have one of these are awesome, because this little iron is small enough to even go in a 4x4 hoop. So these are up on the website too, and I love this because I do a lot of applique with it in the hoop. So if I just tip this up, so I'm going to lay this on my mat. I tip the camera over this way so you can kind of see, okay? Then you want a pressing cloth. Make sure you have a pressing cloth. This is just an old tea towel that my grandmother made. Okay, I'm going to lay that over the vinyl, and I'm just going to press down on it for about 20 seconds with my little iron. And I think I've got it on kind of like wool setting. Just adhere it to the fabric so it won't pucker in the middle. If you don't adhere it, it will try to, pook up in the center when you're stitching on it. Okay. Yeah, I know the scissors are great. Who said that? Oh, Nancy. Okay, so here is my little, and I'm going to let these cool just a little bit before I stitch on them. So there's my pressed down ears, my center of my ears. And then the step number 15 is going to be the satin stitches for around those. So we'll go to make sure this is cool enough. Yeah. I like to let it cool just a little bit before I start stitching again. All right, so hopefully I didn't lose any of my fabric there. Oh, I'm looking for, oh, there he is. I'm looking for my egg. I'm just going to put the satin stitches over the glitter vinyl. Yeah, so it's been kind of cool because I was really surprised last night. I was talking to a friend on the phone and I heard this little ding, and I looked down and there was a video going, and my doorbell had turned on, and my neighbor, his dog had walked up my stairs and turned the video on the doorbell. So, all right. So remember, when you use glitter vinyl, you really need to press it, but make sure you trim first and then press it down so that it adheres to your fabric. Otherwise, it likes to bunch up in the center because it's not adhered to the fabric. It's kind of, it's shiny on the back, so it's slippery, and it just bunches up. So there's the first one. Go over here and do the second one. Trying to remember what the next step is. Let's see. We're on number 15. So this is 16. Oh, okay. We're gonna do the eyeballs. Now this is one place with the little eyes. You could do a piece of water soluble topping, but they're so small I just didn't bother to do it. But you could. You might see just a teeny little bit of fluff through your black eyes, but they're so small. That's what the next step is. I think we'll go to black. I think the next step is black. Yep. So we're getting around there. This was a little bit of a challenge. This is the first time that I had ever made the panels and separated the letters out so that there was part of the word was on the first panel and part of the word was on the second panel and part of the word was on the third panel. So I had to learn how to get that all working out. Oh, yeah, I can believe that because the thing is they probably saw him coming up, and then I can talk to people. I didn't do that to my neighbor because I could see who it was. So I didn't turn on the microphone and talk to him because I figured it would just scare him. But I could tell who it was as soon as he walked past the camera. It's like, oh, okay, that's who it is. He's just out walking his dog. Okay, so we're going to do step number 16 is going to be the little eyes. And yes, this would be a place that if you wanted to, especially if you're using fleece, you could just lay a little piece of water soluble over here, tape it down, and then it would probably keep you from having a teeny bit of white fluff show. But I'm just going to go ahead and go for it. It's the eyes are so small, it wasn't that bad. So, and this is not super. I did put an underlay underneath of it. So, but this is not a super heavy or high piled fleece. So. Sometimes when I do these, I cheat just a little bit. So I should probably have put a topper on there, but I didn't. I think this one looks okay. What do you think? Do you think this one looks okay? You see just a teeny little bit of white through it. But I think it looks okay, don't you? And there's little white glints in his eyes anyway. All right. So there's his eyes. And then we're going to do his, let's see. Oh, his nose. We're going to do his nose next. So his nose is pink. I made his nose pink. Yeah, you could do that. You could just sew it twice. Yeah, you could do that twice. My digitizing software doesn't have a real super dense fill. You can make it denser, but I like that softer feel because then it isn't so dense. So my older P design software that I digitized with was very dense with its fills, and this one's a little bit lighter. Okay, so we're gonna sew out the bunny nose. And this is step number 17. And then number 18 is what? Oh, his little accent. So I'll put the white back in for that. Do the little accents in the eyes. Bought out a pink thread. Yeah, you could always take a little black magic marker, whoever said that. Yep. I do use black Sharpie marker or some sort of colors of Sharpie markers occasionally. So you could do that as well. They make that new topping stuff that's colored, like they have black that you could lay the black down and then sewn over it and then torn away the rest. And whoops, second, I just put the wrong color in. Sorry, guys. You could do that too. I put black in instead of white. Let's go back and try that again, shall we? I got the white up here too. It was right next to the black. Do the little accents. Whoops, I missed. Ron didn't get my little tails taken care of though. I'm gonna have to ask him about that. See, I'm still getting little tails. Ask him why that's happening. There's my little accent. There we go. Looks better in white. You can see it. All right. Let's see. This is step number 18. Let's see. What was 19? Oh, now we're going to do we're going to put after we get the little bunny done, then you can put your border on the outside. Okay. So we got the little accents done. Okay. I always have to clip my little tail. So I'll have to ask Ron about that. So now before you sew number 19, you need to put down your fabric. Again, just like we did the top and the bottom, right sides together. Just line up, and you shouldn't be any trimmings. So right, lay that down, right sides together, match up your raw edges, and then it's going to stitch out. I'm going to leave the white in for that. It's going to stitch out that. So that it's going to sew those two pieces together. Some black in here. Then we're going to flip it over. This was, number 19. We'll flip it over, and then the next one will be the tack down line again. Okay, so the instructions, as you can see, the instructions say this is for the left and the right panel. So the panels are just mirror images of each other. So you'll use the first instructions that we're using right now for the first and the third panel. The middle one is going to be just slightly different, so we'll kind of go over that. Just slightly different because it doesn't have the side borders. Okay, so get that nicely creased. Okay. And then I'm going to sew down number 20 is going to be my tack down line. And I always kind of hold it so that it doesn't get loose on me. There we go. All right, so it's our tack down line. So the number 21, oh, now we're going to do the quilting on the border. So my quilting, I don't know if you can even see it. My quilting kind of is pretty matchy. So I used like a lilac color, a really light lavender. So mine's a little bit on the matchy side. So let me find my lavender. It's actually called medium lavender, I think. So that's the color I use for my quilting. And it's little bunny feet all the way around there. So we're going to do the little bunny feet for the quilting. Okay. So while that's sewing, it's going to take a minute for this to sew. I was going to show you some of the stuff that I was working on this week. I wanted to show you some of the patterns I'm trying to make for my walls. So let me switch my camera over for a minute while this is stitching, because this one takes just a minute to do. Okay, so I wanted to do these on my wall. I don't know if I showed these to you before. So these were the bonus designs from No Place Like Home, and Lynn had done these really cool wall hangings out of them. So I did these. I stitched these out at the store. Get this out of my way so I can see. I stitched these out at the store and did family, and I did this one a couple of times. So this was love. So I had to change the color of it. I didn't like the first one I did, so I did the second one. And then friends. So, and then I did laugh. So I thought I'd hang these on my wall in my bedroom. I thought they were awfully pretty. And then do like a little wall hanging thing. And then gather. So these are all ready to go. I just have to get them attached to the little, I'm going to put them on those like artist canvases. So then they'll be like little wall hangings that I can hang up in my bedroom. Sorry, I had to go turn the TV down. Dad had changed the channel and the TV went up. Yep. Yeah, I'm going to put them up where you combine the phrases or, yeah, I don't know. They're kind of, Lynn did a combination. She had like an ampersand, like the and sign. She had that and did like combined them so that they said like friends and family kind of thing. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I got the stuff to do it. I just haven't had a chance to get them attached yet. So that's the next thing. Okay, so let me put this camera back down. Sorry, I had to run in and turn the TV down because Dad had changed the channel and the volume came way up. Okay. He's in the living room watching TV and it gets loud sometimes. All right, so we're just about around. Coming down the side here. It started up the top and now it's coming down the side. Then we'll do, it's all little bunny feet. Oops. My thread is stuck in there. It's got 2 or 3 more to do here. Is there any questions so far? Is everybody understanding what we're doing? Whoops, now I got a cat. Yes, sometimes when you change the channel, the sound goes crazy. So, because I think he's getting ready to watch basketball. I think it started at 7, so he probably just turned the channel to the channel he was going to watch the ball game. Got 2 more left. My cat decided she was going to come visit. So she's sitting on my lap now. I don't know why she always has to visit when I'm trying to teach, but that's when she wants to. Maybe she thinks I'm talking to her. Yeah, but I like baseball. We've been watching baseball games on TV already. Yeah, the Cubs played today, didn't they? Dad was watching the Cubs earlier. Yeah, can you get down, please? Okay. So we're about done with the quilting. Oops, maybe not. Just a second. My machine decided it wasn't going to sew. You back up a little bit so I can get that whole bunny foot on there. It decided it wasn't going to sew. So let me get back there. Let's see here. How many stitches do I need to go back? Oops, there we go. All right. I'm just going to rethread. So if that happens, sometimes I need to rethread the top thread. And I'm going to pull this out and I'm going to, whoops, put the foot up. I'm going to reset my bobbin because sometimes what happens is like the bobbin thread just gets a little bit like out of place or something, or pulls a little bit, and then it doesn't pick up the bobbin thread. So there we go. Now let's try her. Oh, I'm sorry. Made it mad. So let's see if we can get the last one here. There it goes. Yep, probably just didn't pull up the bobbin thread. All right, there we go. So there's the last little foot. So now the next step is going to be the lettering. Gigi, you're sitting on my egg. You're sitting on my egg. I know. She likes to sit on my cutting mat. I don't want to lose my fabric here. All right, so the next step is step number 22. And it's going to be the first letters of happy. So it's HA. And the rest of happy was on the center panel. So this is just the H and the A. So what I did when I did this, I had never done this, that I had to, go across the panels like that. So I decided to try it. And so I picked a design, or I picked a font. Oh, you have two dogs on your lap. I tried to pick a font that wasn't like super like perfectly lined up on the bottom, because I figured then if I got it a little bit off, it would be okay. So like here's PPY for happy, and then here's part of Easter. So then when you sew this together, it still looks lined up, even though because the font is not terribly even on the bottom. So I thought that looked really cool. So I just picked something that I thought would be easier to get lined up. If you were a little off, it'd be okay. So see, here's happy and there's the seam right down there. And here's Easter. So they're not really lined up. I just picked a font like that was a little easier. Yeah, isn't it fun to do these classes though from home, and then you get to see the cats, and the TV's loud in the living room, and just your normal things going on in a household, right? I remember when we started teaching a lot of classes online for the store too. We got to see each other's homes and like our sewing rooms, and I always think that's cool because then you get to see where people are actually sewing, and people are always interested in what is in my sewing room and that kind of stuff. So it gave us a chance to see into each other's lives a little bit. If nothing good came out of COVID, we got to learn a little bit about that, didn't we? We got to see each other's homes and talk, sometimes husbands and cats and dogs and all that. So it's just been different, hasn't it, to do that. I thought that was cool. I think it's more relaxed too, Shannon. I really do. Dad's house, this room is a beautiful room to sew in. I love this room. This was the family room in the house. And it started out as a screen porch. Not even a screen porch. It was like a open rail porch over the garage. So they just slowly worked it in, and it slowly became a family room. So now it's actually heated and cooled, and so I have a really nice view here to sew. All right, so we're going to do happy here. So when the next one's sewing, we'll talk a little bit about the trimming. We'll let HA finish out here. And then I think it's going to do let's see what it's going to do next. Number 23. Oh, it's going to do the little Easter egg. So while that's sewing, I'll talk about the trimming. Okay. Oh, a computer sales floor. Okay, so now the little Easter egg is next. So I did that in the lavender, like I did my quilting in. So I'll do that. That's number 23. I'm going to go back to my medium lilac for that. And then we'll talk about the trimming a little bit. So as we're sewing, we can talk about that. Okay, so there's that. So this is going to be there's one filled egg. So we're doing this filled egg right here. So we're going to do this fill first, and then there's a satin stitch over the top. Okay. So when you trim these, after you get them all sewn, I trimmed through all the layers, and I just trimmed a 1/2 inch all the way around. Okay. And we're actually going to trim down the outside edges, but I thought it would just easier to do it all the same length all the way around so that you didn't get mixed up. And then we'll trim it the whole top down to a 1/4 inch on the outside when we get ready to put the binding on. So it was just easier to kind of, to do one of the trimmings first. And then, so I just did a 1/2 inch all the way around from this basting stitch. Okay, so just trim it all the way around. Could put something under the egg to make them fluffy or 3D. I think you could, although it's a fill, so it's not I think you would be able to do that better with the applique egg, maybe. The filled egg is just a fill, so it wouldn't really look 3D. So I did that with both of these. So see, I've got this one trimmed at 1/2 inch all the way around. Okay, and we'll do another trim on it before we put it together. And the second panel, the center panel, the only thing that's really different is it's going to start out the same way. You put your batting down, trim your batting, then it's going to do the placement line for the center panel here, which is just a little bit better. Okay. All right. Or a little bit bigger, I should say, a little bit more square. And then you're going to do the same thing. Then it's going to do the stippling. Okay. Then you're going to piece your top and bottom panels, the little border panels on. Okay. It does the quilting on the border too. And then it's going to start in the center. So it's real easy. I tried to stay in kind of the same order. So it is basically the same order as the other panels, but it doesn't have the side border. Okay. And this one's mostly just sewn. So that's why we won't sew that in class today, but this is all just mostly sewn. There is a piece of the vinyl here that's an applique. So you do the same thing with this one that we did with the bunny ears. Put your placement line down, then lay it down, do your tack down line, trim, and then use your iron and adhere it to the fabric. Okay. Otherwise it'll get all bunchy when you go to do the yellow. All right, so there's my purple. And now I think I did my satin stitch in yellow. So I'm going to switch to a yellow to do a satin stitch on that. And some decorative stitches on the inside. And then there's one last little applique at the end. Okay, so there's my yellow. Okay, does anybody have any questions about the panels? Do you think you can handle all the panels? They're basically all the same. But these two are exactly the same. And then the center one just has, I want to make sure that I put everything kind of in the same order for the center. Yeah, so you do you put the fabric in the center, and then you quilt it, and you put the top border on and the bottom border on and tack them down, and then you do the border quilting. And then the rest of it is just the stitching. So it's the hippity hoppity happy Easter Day lettering. And then it does the little duck with his little body and his beak and feet, his eyeball. And then the last little piece is going to be that flower applique, like we did the ears with the glitter. Okay. So those, that's basically the same order that we're doing this. All right, so I did the little decorative stitches on the inside first, and then it's going to do the satin stitch around the outside. Yeah, I still have to ask Ron about the little tails. I keep getting little tails on everything. So I don't know something's not quite burying or something. I don't know. I have to ask him why that's doing that. I know the duck's cute, isn't it? I love that little duck. I always wanted to use it in something. It's in the software, and I've always wanted to use it. And hadn't done anything that I thought I could use it. I can't take credit for that. That one was actually a little design that's in Perfect Embroidery Pro. I just think he's adorable, so I had to use him. I think I had to make him a little bit bigger. And then the Halloween pillow has a cat on it, like a black cat on it that's like got its tail all floofed out. And I always wanted to use that for something, and I finally found something that I could use that. So the Halloween pillow is called Double Double Toil and Trouble. And I've been watching Harry Potter when I did that, and I just got done watching the movie where they sing that, so I thought that was a good name for it. So that one's fun. And then my little like the little spiders on that are done in glitter vinyl, and I put the little googly eyes, you know, those little glue on eyes that we always got as kids to put on stuff. I put those on there too, on the little spiders. All right, so now we're going to go back to a placement line. And I'm going to go to, I think I used my teal. I got to back up. Yeah. So I'm going to go to my teal and do the placement line for the little applique egg. So there's one last little egg to do. So we're just about done. So I did this pillow on 3 different sewing machines. Okay. So here's the little placement line. So this is step number 25. And this one's just going to be regular fabric. So I just did this one in regular fabric. I have box elder bugs everywhere today. Everywhere I look, there's a box elder bug. Okay. Get that little tail out of there before we sew it in. Okay. So here's my little applique fabric. I was going to try to get some of the polka dots in it. Let's see here. They aren't very evenly spaced, so they'll just kind of fall where they may, I think. Okay. I'm just going to hold that there. My original little eggs on my original design, I couldn't find any of that fabric anymore. I thought I still had some, but they were like white with that color little polka dots. Yep. Yeah, the box elder bugs love to hang out here in this family room. They always did. Okay, so now we're going to trim this close to the stitches. And then the last satin stitch around the little egg. And that is step number 27. Now the center panel takes just a little bit longer because there's a lot of letters in it. So it does take a little longer to sew. That's why I usually, when I've taught these, I usually teach one that isn't as long. So this is the shorter of the panels. All right, so we'll do number 27 and do the satin outline on our little egg here. So then at the end, of course, like I said, we talked about this, that I took it out of the hoop after it's all done, take it out of the hoop, trim it a ½ inch all the way around, okay? And we will trim it again when we get ready to put the, binding on, because I want to use a 1/4 inch, but making sure I got the right microphone so you can hear me okay. All right, so there's our little egg. My thread really kind of matched, and it was pretty matchy. I only got 3 polka dots though. Oh well. So yeah, so this was mostly sewing. There's one little piece of applique in the center panel, just this little piece here, other than the actual piecing. So okay. So your assignment for next week is to get all your panels done, and then next week we'll sew it together and put the backing on, and then I'll show you how to do the binding by machine, because a lot of people, I've had some people that haven't seen me do binding by machine, so we're going to do that next week also. So next week will be the assembly of our pillow. So what do you think? Isn't that cute? I love the bunny. I like bunny rabbits. So there's my first, my left-hand panel. This is the center panel. Here's the center panel. That'll go in there. And here's the right-hand panel. So that's your assignment for next week, is to get all your panels done, and then we'll put it together. Okay. Let me turn the camera back up here. Is there any questions? Is everybody doing okay? I know a few people were sewing along with me. Get the microphone up here. There we go. All right. So is there any questions? So next week we'll finish up this pillow. We'll do the assembly and put the binding on. And then we will, the following week is Easter. So we will actually take Easter off. We'll have Easter off as well. So we'll have class next week and finish the pillow. The following week is Easter. So we'll have Easter off. And then the last week in April, we'll have a software class. And I know what it's going to be. I just haven't advertised it yet. It's going to be in Perfect Embroidery Pro. We're going to do a like a layered or a multi-layer applique. It's applique, but I'm going to show you how to do it like when you need several appliques that are kind of layered on top of each other. Okay. So everybody get their assignment done for next week so we can put our pillow together. I love this fabric too. I wish I could get some more. I don't know. I haven't been into Joann's to look lately to see if they had any more of that. I thought it was cute. So, okay. So next week we'll be back and we'll finish up our pillow, and then we'll have a little break for Easter, so that this way we can all be hippity hopping down the bunny trail, right? So thank you everybody. And if you have any questions, let me know, and you can get my design. I'll write it in the comments too, so you know where you can get the design if you don't have it. And I will see you next week to finish it up. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a good evening.